My Neighbor Totoro is one of the most recognizable Studio Ghibli films, along with Spirited Away. And it is a film that I think everyone has their own unique story about. Perhaps fitting, considering that it is a very whimsical and joyous film. Appropriate for children, certainly. And yet a film lined with a wistful and inescapable sense of subtle melancholy that lingers after the end of the film. I was not an early fan of Studio Ghibli films. I was not introduced to them as a kid. And I only saw my first one when my 6th grade teacher put on Spirited Away, which, for the record, I did not like the first time I saw it. I was profoundly unsettled by it. That teacher was great, by the way. I still remember him very fondly. In 8th grade, in that class, same teacher, we watched My Neighbor Totoro. It was in the waning days of the semester, some of the last few days of middle school. One of the few times when I was growing up that I had an actual friend group. And as a result, I had some very fond memories. So my memories of that film, the end of the semester, the waning late spring days of 8th grade, all of those are intermingled. I want to be clear that I am not just making a video about every single Studio Ghibli film for the sake of it. If I don't have something to say about a film, something I think that is worth saying, I will not make a video about it. And so this is probably going to be one of the last Studio Ghibli analyses I make for this channel, at least for a while, as I've gone through most of the films. I, sorry to say, don't really have a lot to say about Howl's Moving Castle. It's not one of my favorites. Nor do I have a lot to say about The Cat Returns or Ocean Waves, widely considered to be lesser, though not terrible entries in the Ghibli catalog, the Ghibli oeuvre. My Neighbor Totoro I am making a video about because that film haunts me in a way. It sticks with me in ways that are very beautiful and also a little solemn. It is a film about two little girls, one very, very small, little more than a toddler, and one who's somewhat older. And they move out to the countryside, to this dusty house with literal spirits in the attic. They have adventures in the woodlands and interact with the enchanting spirit Totoro, who helps them on their adventures and guides them through their emotional journeys, because they do have emotional journeys. What this film is, other than a simple slice of life adventure for little girls in the Japanese countryside around the mid-century, is dealing with the sickness of their mother, who is gone and who is not often seen in this film. Instead, they have the help of their dad, who is remarkably kind, considerate, empathetic, and helpful. It perhaps shouldn't be surprising to see a character like this, but it is. There were certainly not a lot of dads this non-stoical and emotionally open in mid-century Japan. And he very much takes care of those kids. Obviously, we, as we watch the film, hope that the mother will get better, but the dad demonstrates that he is absolutely capable of taking care of them and doing a good job. He makes the move fun for them, he makes it an adventure. He encourages them to explore, but at the same time, he does what he can to keep them safe. He doesn't treat them like they're idiots, or act like they're completely ignorant of what's happening, but he does try to be as reassuring as possible about what's happening to their mother. In a way, he is this ideal father figure in a way that we often don't get in many Studio Ghibli films. And from a certain perspective, he is just as fantastical as Totoro. Totoro is also a kind of guardian for the kids. He's a bit lazy, a bit lackadaisical. He very much is this embodiment of this rural, woodsy, Japanese, unindustrialized countryside. A bit playful, a bit languid. Not scary, and quite cute, but at the same time, there's still something wild and mysterious and mystical about him. Totoro is always there to help the kids when they're in trouble, to provide them comfort and succor. There are, of course, all these kind of silly, edgy fan theories around about, oh, Totoro is secretly the death god or whatever. Or things like that. There's quite a few theories that say, oh, their mother didn't really get better, or the little girl died. And I think those are very silly on a blunt factual level. But at the same time, they're not completely absurd to the point of completely missing the point in the same way as, say, theories about Spirited Away really being about prostitution, which, yes, is something I've heard, and that's silly. But I think the theories about Totoro being this kind of secretly dark or deathly figure do make some degree of sense, even if I don't think they're particularly right or reasonable. They get to something true nonetheless, which is that there is this undercurrent of darkness in this film, and that never really goes away. These two little girls have a lot of wonderful experiences, but at the same time, they're isolated, they're deeply uncertain, they think about their mom a lot, and they don't really know what to do with not having her. Dad does the best he can, and he does a remarkable job, but at the same time, the pain of not having their mother deeply lingers with these kids. There's also a second layer of melancholy, which is that of growing up, maturation. The wonder in this film, what makes it a pleasant and enchanting film, rather than something a bit more sorrowful, where the melancholy is more deeply felt, is that they are children. That this world is fun and adventurous for them. That they have this intense joy in seeing everything for the first time, and crawling through little passages and exploring the depths of the forest and seeing these old shrines. By the time this film was made in the 1980s, Japan was already drastically moving away from the kinds of places that the two little girls, Mei and Sasuke, enjoy. It was becoming an increasingly more urban and mechanized country, a nation of technology as opposed to one of more natural connection. And there is this deep, lingering unease about that that's apparent in a lot of Studio Ghibli films. It's most apparent in Whisper of the Heart and even more overtly in Pompoko, two films that are specifically about the development of West Tokyo and Japanese suburbia in the years after World War II, and the deep disquiet and nostalgia that such rapid change and urbanization inevitably evokes. Totoro is about a lot of these same ideas, but there's something less definite about them here that makes it somehow more deeply felt. There's something fabulous about this film. Like it's an old folktale being told about the past from a later time. It reads almost like, imagine one of the girls when she's older, when she's an adult, talking about her childhood. That's very much the kind of atmosphere, the kind of impression that this film creates. It's about kids experiencing the wonders of rural Japan and all the mysteries and enchantments of it. It's very much related with this hint of adult wistfulness. And that combination is what I think makes this film so haunting, what makes it impossible to fully categorize. There are great scenes like the two kids waiting in the rain at the bus stop, and Totoro is there, and Totoro provides them with a smile and a sense of comfort. And the film is always rather ambivalent whether Totoro is there in the way that the girls perceive him to be. It's not that I think it's anything as simple as Totoro is not real. I think that's a very reductive reading. But there is something about the magic of the spirits, the magic of the forest that Totoro represents that is fundamentally tied to a child's perspective of the world. Think about the scene when Totoro embarks with the kids on a magical adventure to help the plants they, planted grow, and there's all these wild, billowing trees, and there's a great canopy. It's all absolutely mystical and majestic, and then when the kids come out the next morning, none of that is there, but the little shoots have sprouted. So is Totoro there or not? Well, I think that's kind of the wrong question to ask. There is a magic in the land. There is a magic in the forest. There's something non-merely realist about it. And yet at the same time, the kids very much experience that in their own intensified kind of way. And it gives them solace, and it gives them comfort as their mother suffers. And certainly this is one reason why the father is there to play up the whimsical and playful aspects of the home they're living in, because it is a little scary to the kids, not just because they're moving to a new place, but because they're moving without their mom. And it is that mix of childhood wonder and this subdued strain of adult melancholy that I think make this film as beautiful and as timeless as it is. It has the impression of a happy, wondrous memory that one looks back on as an adult and realizes how much sorrow and uncertainty there was around it. And yet, that adult realization does not dampen or counteract the joy and the whimsy of discovery that permeates childhood. It's a really thoughtful and very considerate film. Makes me think a little of Wordsworth's Prelude, with the intermixture of this childhood wonder contrasted with the more adult contemplation. That makes it quite fascinating to watch and rewatch. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can. And if you want to see more videos just like this one, keep watching all Ghibli films. They're absolutely wonderful. Take care. Adios, comrades.